You're listening to Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk. Each week, your host, Polly Requa, interviews veterinarians and individuals in the pet industry from across the nation answering pet questions. Bark and Wag podcast is produced weekly for your enjoyment, and show notes can be found at barkandwag.com under the podcast tab. That's BARKNWAG.com. Please remember to subscribe to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk.
Thank you for listening to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk. Bark and Wag is dedicated to protecting our dogs through advocacy, education, and supporting like-minded dog lovers by selling custom pet products. Bark and Wag is excited to announce our new partnership with a Colorado hemp farm to produce a line of CBD products for your pets. Bark and Wag has CBD pet tincture available in 300, 750, 1200, and 2400 milligrams. Bark and Wag CBD is pet safe, no THC, it's made in the USA, and is CO2 extracted. Please check out Bark and Wag's website, barkandwag.com. That is BARK, to see our line of CBD and awesome merchandise. We love pooch ideas for podcasts and merchandise, so anytime send an email to Polly at barkandwag.com with your suggestions.
Welcome to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk. I'm your host, Polly Requa. Today we're talking to renowned veterinarian specialist, exotics expert, and author Dr. Doug Mader. Welcome, Doug. Thanks for being back on the podcast.
Oh, Polly, it's such a pleasure. I really appreciate the opportunity to come back. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, you have so much knowledge. It's just outstanding. And so today I wanted to talk about alligators.
My favorite animal.
I saw the picture of you with one, and I will put it in the show notes. How did that happen? How did you take a picture with an alligator?
That's Casper. So first off, let me say right out front, do not do that. Do not jump in a pond with an alligator, okay? For the listeners, the picture Polly's referring to is I'm working with one of my patients. His name is Casper. I've been taking care of this animal for 25 years. It's probably about 50 years old. I know it knows me, and like a dog whisperer, I can read the animal's body language. If I walk up to the pond and it's in the pond, I can call its name. It'll lift up its head, look around, and when it sees me, it swims right over to me. So we have a relationship. I certainly wouldn't sit on the couch and watch TV with it. This animal, by the way, is about 250 pounds. And I certainly would not put my hand in its mouth. But I'm comfortable enough handling these guys, and he knows me well enough that he knows I'm not a threat. I'm not going to hurt him. And so he lives in a big pond, and so sometimes when I go and I do my rounds at this particular facility, I want to spend time with Casper, and I'll jump in the pond with him. But let me also state that I look at his body language before I jump in the water. And if he gives me a sideways look, or he's just not acting like he's happy to see me, and I know that's anthropomorphic, but if he picks up his head and he looks at me, I know that he's aware of me, but if he doesn't look at me when I walk up, I know he's in a bad mood, so I won't jump in the water. So the reason I was able to do that is because I know him, he knows me, and I understand his behavior, and I would never do something that would either hurt him or put me in danger.
So tell me about alligators, since I do not know it a lot. Are they pack animals or?
No, they're actually pretty solitary. Alligators are to me, they're so cool because they've been around since the Carboniferous period for millions and millions of years, pretty much unchanged. And anybody that likes Jurassic Park and likes dinosaurs, the alligator is an extant dinosaur. I mean, they really haven't changed much. If you look at go online or look at some of the older books and you look at the pictures of alligators from the prehistoric days, they pretty much haven't changed. And so I mean, they are really an amazing animal. Casper, 250 pounds, has a brain about the size of the tip of your thumb. So by human standards or dog standards, they're not that bright, but obviously they've done something right to live for so many years, Right. But no, they're not pack animals. They're pretty solitary. You'll see a lot of them together, but they're not coming together because they want to socialize. I liken it to if you have a gymnasium and you have a bunch of basketball players out there, they're going to be kind of scattered all around the court, right? Uh-huh. However, if we brought in a TV, a couch, and some pizzas, they're all going to come over and sit in the same spot, right? So it's the same thing with the alligators. Typically they're going to gather at the watering hole. Why? Because A, it's water, and B, that's where the water birds come, and also that's where the small mammals come, so that's where food is. So you might see 20, 30, 40, 50 alligators in one watering hole thinking, oh, look, they're all friends. No, they're not friends. They're just hanging out because that's the place, biologically, that's where they need to be.
Okay. And what about, are they still hunted? Are they going to be extinct?
Super good question. They were hunted almost to extinction decades ago. And it got to the point where they were put on the endangered species list. And then this is an example of where intervention by the authorities and U.S. Fish and Wildlife did a fantastic job bringing the populations back to the point now where there are so many alligators. Some of them are considered nuisance alligators, and yes, you can hunt them. You have to have a permit, you have to have a license, and there's a limit, like anything. You can have a bag limit of X number of alligators per year based on your permit, but you can hunt them. You can also raise them if you have a license. There are alligator farms where they're raised for meat or for hides. So they've come back literally from the brink of extinction. Let me just parallel that for a second and talk about the crocodile. Now, both the alligators and the crocodiles are in the family Crocodilia. Crocodiles, the American crocodile, is on the brink of extinction because of hunting, environmental encroachment, pesticides damaging the eggs, pythons eating the eggs. Now the new thing is the Argentinian tegu, which is running rampant in the Everglades. They're egg-eating lizards, and they get into the alligator and crocodile eggs and eat the eggs in the nests. So crocodiles are highly protected endangered species, and you're not allowed to hunt them. And if there is one in a neighborhood that's considered a nuisance crocodile, the authorities will actually catch it and relocate it. So alligators, on the other hand, if there's a nuisance alligator, they pay trappers, licensed trappers, to catch them, and then the trappers get paid based on the length and the weight of the alligator, and they'll sell the skin and the meat. Crocodiles are always relocated.
So people eat alligators and crocodiles?
Not crocodiles, no.
Or I mean alligators.
Alligators, absolutely. I mean, most of the restaurants here in South Florida where I live serve alligator.
Wow. What is interesting. And do we need to be concerned about the farms? Are those like puppy mills?
Let me be careful how I say this. They're not like puppy mills, but they are farms. It's like a beef farm where they raise beef cattle. They have regulations, so they have to follow regulations so the animals are properly cared for, they're properly housed, they're properly fed. They have to have veterinary care. The reason I hesitate is because I personally don't take care of farmed alligators. I take care of parks that have alligators. So like I've got 2 big parks that have alligators. Both of them probably have 400 or 500 alligators apiece, but they're not farmed. They're just there for display for tourists. And so, I know a lot of people don't like animals on display, but those animals need vet care too. And I've chosen to help those animals, but I don't get involved with the farmed alligators.
And when you are working with the 200 alligators, do you vaccinate them?
That's a great question. Wow. Yes. In certain areas, there are one disease in particular called West Nile. And alligators, you've heard of West Nile. It's a disease that's carried by mosquitoes through crows and crow-like birds. And if the mosquito bites the crow and then bites a human can get West Nile. And in certain situations, it can be lethal. People can die from it. And in other situations, people get it. They get permanent neurologic injuries, and they're never normal. And if you're lucky, you get West Nile, and it's like a really bad cold, and then you'll get over it and you'll be fine. The reason I bring that up is because if a mosquito bites a bird, it bites a human can get it. If it bites pretty much any mammal, I've seen dogs with it, I've seen cats with it, there are reports of sea lions with it, I've personally seen a dolphin with it. But the virus overwinters in rattlesnakes and alligators. So, do you vaccinate them for it? Well, nobody does. They do have West Nile vaccines for mammals. I don't know if it works in alligators. I've never heard of anybody doing it. But that is a disease that is vaccinated for in other species that alligators do carry. That's a great question.
Interesting. Is there any other information you'd like to tell the listeners about alligators?
Yeah, there is. And To me, they're fascinating. I think I mentioned in the beginning of the podcast that it's my favorite animal. I was born in the Florida Keys, and I've always liked them. And then I moved back here over 25 years ago, and I've just really taken to them because they're just such fascinating animals. But they're animals that should be appreciated from a distance. So if you are a tourist, do not walk up to it and pet it or get a selfie with it because you're going to get hurt. You hear about people getting attacked by alligators all the time. And 99% of the time it's people doing something stupid, like walking their little dog too close to a pond, or letting the dog sniff the alligator that's sleeping on the side of the bank, or trying to get too close and getting that selfie for their Florida vacation picture. That's dumb. And if you do that, I guess Darwin selection, I guess you deserve it. But
for sure.
That's not true. I don't want to see anybody get hurt. But the thing is, it's wildlife. Just stay away from it and enjoy it from a distance. And they are beautiful animals. To me, they are. And a lot of people they are. But they're wildlife, so just appreciate the fact that they're wildlife and give them their space. Don't crowd them. There is that fight or flight response. If you get too close, hopefully they'll run away. But sometimes if they feel like they can't, they might turn on you. So just appreciate them from a distance.
I just think that people can be really dumb. I've seen a few Facebook videos of people golfing where the alligator is on the green.
Yeah.
And I mean, seriously, really? So
yeah, it's I understand it because they want to play through and the alligator's in their way, so they think they can get up there and then poke it with their golf club and get it to run off. Well, you poke a wild animal, it's like poking a bear, right?
Yeah.
It may run off or it may turn on you. So the best thing to do is call somebody from the golf club and they can come out and have a trained person get it off the green so you can get by without getting hurt and the animal doesn't get hurt.
Yeah, or just skip that hole.
Skip the hole and come back to it. You got it.
It's not like you're, you know what I mean, in some huge tournament. That happened. We used to live in Breckenridge, and tourists would come and try to pet the moose.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and were killed.
Yeah.
Why would you think that you could even, pet a moose? So. It is something that people really need to understand the environment they're visiting.
Yeah, it's like watching all the tourists in Yellowstone going to get the selfie with the buffalo and getting smacked.
Yeah, exactly. One kick. When I go hiking with my children and the dogs, a lot of times they'd be off leash, and we would just, if I had to tell the girls that if we ran into a moose, the dogs might not come back, because we can hide behind a tree, but if the dog has no recall to come back because they're going through their instincts of protecting us, a moose will charge a dog.
Oh yeah. I mean, a moose can kill a full-grown wolf.
Yeah. So they don't really have any predators except man. So
yep.
But I feel sorry for the alligators just because you see these, when you're in Florida, you see these farms and you're just not quite sure what's going on there.
Yeah. Well, again, the farms that I visited, I mean, seriously, if a farm has a problem with a disease issue and they call me, I will go help. I'm not going to walk away from a sick animal. And, they do care. They have to care. It's their livelihood. So it's to their best interest to take care of the animals.
Yeah, and I think alligators are just, people don't know enough about them. So that's why I wanted to have you on the show.
Let's put it this way. I mean, most of the places that I've worked with, and I've worked with quite a few, the people that work in these farms care about the animals that they take care of, and it's important for them. And just like a beef cattle industry, the ultimate outcome is the animal ends up on somebody's dinner plate. The same thing with the alligators. But I think the caretakers that take care of them legitimately do have compassion and care about the animals. And that's good to see.
Right. Well, thank you for all you do for the alligators and exotic animals. I mean, you're just a wealth of knowledge, and I look forward to having you back on the podcast.
Oh, I appreciate the compliment, Polly, and it's always a pleasure. You're great to chat with.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll pass along our web address, www.barkandwag.com, to your friends and other pet owners. Have a pressing question for a veterinarian? Ask your question at barkandwag.com under the podcast tab. This has been a KFR production. Join us next time for another edition of Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk.